Chapter 51 The Price of Provocation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mr. Han, this is the residence that the sect has arranged for you. I hope you are satisfied. A deacon with white hair and beard from the inner sect of Yuan man led Han Yang to an antique small building. Although this deacon has the 6th level of bone forging, he is extremely respectful to Han Yang, a new disciple, not to mention the impressive talent of reaching the 6th level on the heavenly ranking. Even the astonishing record of reversibly defeating the 6th level of bone forging during the 2nd level of bone forging was enough to make the deacon dare not have the slightest arrogance. As a 6th level bone forging master, the deacon is well aware of the difficulty of defeating or even killing a 6th level bone forging master with the 2nd level bone forging skill, not to mention that Han Yang was just an ordinary bone forging at that time. Even if the 2nd level of bone forging in the Golden Bone Realm could defeat the 6th level of bone forging, it would be an incredible achievement. His humility toward such a genius with both talent and strength is not unreasonable. A very nice place, the key is that it is secluded enough. Han Yang nodded with satisfaction. His current status within the Yuan sect is very special. He is neither a core disciple nor a direct disciple. It is not bad to be able to arrange such a residence. The deacon smiled and said, "This Xianxia residence was originally the core disciples' room number 1. For you to live here, it is already a little shabby." Within Yuan men, the living places of all disciples are very particular. The higher the talent, the stronger the strength, and the more luxurious the residence will be. If the strength is not as good as others, even the core disciples can only live in thatched houses. Of course, this refers to the new disciples. Most of the former disciples went out to practice. Even if they stayed in the sect, they usually opened their own caves in the back mountains and rarely lived in the inner sect. Just when Han Yang was about to step into Jinjiaju, a cold voice suddenly sounded from behind him. "Deacon Lu, what you are doing is against the rules, isn't it? This Jinjiaju should be my young master's residence." Yinan, dressed in black clothes, appeared in front of Jinjia's residence. Beside him, there were several inner disciples wearing gold-threaded black clothes who had been in Yuan men for 2 or even 3 years. "Is this the Han Yang who was raped inside the door? He looks very ordinary. He doesn't have the old demeanor of the Jiu sword immortal at all. I heard that he is the son-in-law of the Qin family. Maybe Qin Yu gave him some kind of genius. That should be the case. Otherwise, with his bones, how could he be promoted to the 3rd level of bone forging in a short period of time?" Several inner disciples around Yinan spoke unscrupulously, and they clearly did not take Han Yang seriously. Han Yang looked at several people with a half-smile. Looking for trouble for no reason is either stupid or bad. To become an inner disciple of the Yuan sect, one cannot be an idiot, that is, one who has some purpose and deliberately provokes oneself. "Mr. Yi, you misunderstood. Mr. Han at least has the status of a direct descendant, but he is just temporarily living in Jinjiaju." Deacon Lu didn't dare to offend anyone, so he could only explain carefully. Yinan turned cold and said gloomily, "I only know that I am the number 1 core disciple, and this Jinjiaju should be my residence." Poor Deacon Lu wanted to explain, but was stopped by Han Yang. "Enough." Han Yang looked into Yinanchan's eyes and asked indifferently. Yinan never looked at Han Yang seriously from the moment he appeared. He only held on to Deacon Lu, obviously not prepared to confront Han Yang head-on, but at this time, Han Yang took the initiative to stand up, forcing him to respond. "As far as I know, Brother Han, you are not a core disciple. This Jinjiaju. Let me ask you, do the people behind the scenes pay you enough?" Yinan was interrupted by Han Yang just as he was halfway through his words. "What?" Yinanchan's face looked a little ugly. Han Yang's eyes swept across Yinan and the few disciples around him who had been in the inner sect for 2 or 3 years. "One is at the 6th level of bone forging, 2 are at the 5th level of bone forging, plus a newly promoted core disciple is number 1, what a great lineup." Yinan vaguely realized that something was wrong with Han Yang's tone, and was a little panicked. Just when he was about to speak, he heard Han Yang say in a deep voice, "I hope that the price paid to you by the people behind the scenes is enough to support you for the rest of your life, because provocation my price is the path of martial arts for all of you." Master Han cannot. Deacon Lu had already heard something was wrong. His scalp felt numb, but it was too late to stop him. The moment Han Yang finished speaking, a sword light lit up, Zhanglang. The sound of the sword being unsheathed was particularly harsh in the quiet night. Everyone, including Xianxia, didn't expect that Han Yang would take action directly after a disagreement. The golden bones are bright and the stars are shining. Han Yang's sword was an advanced version of the heaven-hanging saber that he had mastered above the heaven level. With one slash of the sword, Xianxia and the others were all stunned, with endless regrets rising in their hearts. Two of them burst into tears and were in agony, as if they had encountered the biggest regret in their lives. Not good, but after all, he was one of the 7 geniuses of this generation. Xianxia was extremely talented and was the first one to wake up from the sword intent of Xia Tian's sword. However, it was also too late. When he regained his consciousness, the sword light had already struck him without any fancy. Click. The sound of broken bones spread, and Xianxia wailed and flew backwards. Several jade bones forged on the steps to ascend to heaven were smashed to pieces by Han Yang's sword. You, how dare you? I am the number 1 core, I am the 7th genius, I. Xianxia covered his shattered arm with disbelief in his eyes. He couldn't believe that Han Yang would destroy him just because of his 2 words. If the jade bone is broken, it will take at least half a year or even more than a year to recover. By then, the 19-year-old 3rd-level bone forging master will be inferior to ordinary core disciples, let alone geniuses, as Han Yang said. This sword will end his path to martial arts. The 23-year-old inner disciples standing behind Xianxia were fighting with each other, and they didn't even have the courage to draw their swords. Everyone knows that Han Yang is powerful, and he can defeat the 6th level of bone forging at the 2nd level of bone forging, but it was so powerful that it pulled the 3 of them into the sword's will and couldn't extricate themselves, which was far beyond their expectations. If that sword was not directed at Xianxia, but at the 3 of them, they would have no power to resist and would definitely end up with the same fate as Xianxia. Draw your sword. Han Yang ignored Xianxia, who was wailing like a dead dog, and his tone was as cold as before, without any fluctuation, but it made the 3 of them shudder. Han Yang, if you wantonly seriously injure a core disciple, you will definitely be punished by the sect's rules. You. Among them, the one with the 6th level of bone forging spoke with a fierce expression, but what he received was Han Yang's contempt. Idiot. Following Han Yang's sarcastic voice, the sword light reappeared, exactly the same regretful sword, exactly the same result. The only difference was that the first sword cut only 1 person, Xianxia, but this time, 3 people were killed in a row. The 3 people's eyes were dull, like wooden stakes, and they took Han Yang's blade forcefully. Their bones were broken and they vomited blood. The 3 of them also had several jade bones that had been tempered many times, destroyed by Han Yang's knife. The wailing sound quickly spread throughout the entire core disciple courtyard in the night. Han Yang, you're dead. You won't be able to live well even if you destroy me. Xianxia has a vicious look in his eyes. He still hasn't figured out how this guy dares to attack a few of his people inside the door so unscrupulously. Chapter 52 How can a stubborn stone compare with the price of a pearl? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Core disciples, especially geniuses like Xianxia who rank first among the core disciples, are valuable assets in any sect. These people are likely to advance to gather qi and become a high-end force in a sect. Yi Qiannan's status is much higher than that of ordinary elders, but now, such a genius has been destroyed by Han Yang. This will definitely cause an uproar in Yuan men. Xianxia had almost seen Han Yang's miserable end. If Han Yang seriously hurts him, he will definitely be severely punished by the sect rules. Idiot. No wonder he is easily taken advantage of as the number 1 core disciple. Han Yang glanced at Xianxia contemptuously, then ignored him and sat down on the wooden chair in front of Jinya's residence. What a disaster. What a disaster. Mr. Han, how could you be like this? How could you be like this? Deacon Liu on the side had weak limbs and his face turned green with fear. As the deacon of the Core Disciple Academy, he is very aware of the consequences of seriously injuring a core disciple. The last person who did this was punished by being forced to cross a cliff and was not allowed to move forward for 3 years. In the end, the genius who was also the core disciple completely destroyed the path of martial arts. He really couldn't bear that Han Yang would end up like this. Not to mention, the conflict between Han Yang and Xianxia was caused by his improper arrangements. Although Han Yang will be punished, he cannot escape the blame, but the former's expression was very indifferent. Relax, the fun is just beginning. Good show. Deacon Lu was stunned, not knowing what Han Yang meant by this whoosh whoosh. In less than half a stick of incense, 3 figures in green robes appeared in front of Jinjiaju. It's over. It's the ancient elder of the law enforcement hall. This person is the most rigid. There is no way he will be nice this time. When Deacon Lu saw the leader, his knees couldn't help but feel weak. This ancient elder is one of the 4 elders of the law enforcement hall and has a reputation for being strict. All Yuanmen disciples are as fearful as a tiger. Even some core disciples who violated the sect rules asked the Qi gathering power to intercede, but they were still severely punished by him. Elder Gu's face was thin and dull. After seeing the seriously injured Xianxia, his brows twitched. Elder, Xianxia pointed at Han Yang, with a hateful look in his eyes, and said in a hateful voice, "This person took action for no reason, severely injured me, crippled my jade bones, and cut off my path to martial arts. Elders, please make the decision for me." Elder Gu looked at Han Yang with a stern face and said, "Do you have anything to say about Xianxia's accusation?" Facing this powerful elder of the law enforcement hall of the Yuan sect, Han Yang still did not stand up. He nodded calmly on the big wooden chair and said, "It is true that I hurt him." "Oh, and the 3 behind him. Trash, I also trashed it." As soon as these words came out of his mouth, Xianxia was filled with hatred, while Deacon Lu was filled with despair. He actually admitted it like that. "Don't even defend yourself. This Han Yang must be crazy." Elder Gu didn't seem to expect that Han Yang would admit such a serious crime so openly. He nodded and said, "Very good, since you are willing to admit your mistake, the punishment can be reduced. The core of the same sect is seriously injured, and Siguia is punished by facing the wall for 3 years. Thinking that you are repentant, I can reduce it to 2 years at my discretion." That the law enforcement hall is so overbearing. They directly announced Han Yang's punishment without asking anyone. Xianxia laughed ferociously. "Han Yang, you're done. You've been facing the wall for 2 years, and after 2 years, you'll be worse than trash." He has made up his mind that he will challenge Han Yang in 2 years' time to avenge today's humiliation. The 2 law enforcement hall disciples beside Elder Gu were immediately ready to step forward and capture Han Yang. At this time, Han Yang said calmly, "Elder Gu, I think you seem to have misunderstood something." Elder Gu looked at Han Yang indifferently and said sternly, "Which prince do you want to bring up to intercede for you? I can tell you, it's useless. Today, you will definitely be punished." Han Yang smiled and said, "Elder Gu is joking. I just joined the sect today and have no relatives or friends. How can I persuade all the princes?" Elder Gu looked at Han Yang doubtfully, feeling that this boy was full of weirdness, completely different from the way other disciples who made mistakes looked trembling in front of him. Han Yang suddenly stood up, his slender body seemed to be standing upright under the moonlight. "I just want to tell you, Elder Gu. If you want to punish me, you are not qualified." "What?" As soon as Han Yang said these words, not to mention Elder Gu, even the 3 23-year-old disciples who were wailing on the side, and Xianxia with hateful eyes, all looked at Han Yang in shock. Is this guy really crazy? How dare you speak like this to the 4 elders of the law enforcement hall? The devil-like ancient elder, Elder Gu, on the other hand, had a sarcastic smile on his face, as if he thought this junior was too whimsical. "Are you trying to say that since you are a direct disciple, I cannot punish you?" Thinking too much. Not to mention the direct disciples, even other elders will not be able to escape the punishment of the law enforcement hall as long as they violate the sect rules. Han Yang put his hands behind his back and said calmly, "I really disappoint you, Elder Gu. I have not worshipped the Qi gathering power as my master, so naturally I am not a direct disciple, but..." Han Yang glanced at Xianxia's uncertain face and chuckled, "But how can a stubborn stone compare in price with a pearl? I am the 6th person on the heavenly list and the 98th person on the overall list. Are you sure that the sect will allow you to destroy me, a genius of this generation?" just because of a mere core disciple, ranked 6th on the heavenly list. 98 on the overall list. Han Yang's words were like a sharp sword, piercing Yi Nanshan's heart. The expression on Elder Gu's dull face instantly froze. I see. From the beginning, Han Yang's reliance was not on his direct disciples, nor on the powerful qi-gathering power, it's Han Yang's talent. No matter how strict the sect rules are, it is impossible to eliminate the genius who represents the future of the Yuan sect just because of one Yinan Tian. Although Han Yang is not a direct disciple, his status is no longer inferior to those of you who can gather energy. From the moment Han Yang entered the overall rankings, he was already the most special being in Yuan men. Elder Gu could imagine that neither the sect master nor any other qi-gathering power would allow him to imprison a top-ranked genius on Sigua Cliff. At this moment, Yi Nanshan's face was ashen and his whole body was trembling. What he relies on is the identity of his core disciples, but now, he found that a mere core disciple was not qualified to compare with Han Yang. This is unfair. Yi Nantian gritted his teeth and said 3 words. Han Yang smiled and looked at Yi Nantian, who was wailing like a defeated dog. Fair. Talking about fairness in the adult world is really childish. Elder Gu's face was dark and his fingers were trembling slightly. It has been many years since there have been such unruly people who defy the rules of the sect. Even though this kid is incredibly talented, he is definitely a demon. Just when the ancient elder secretly felt cruel and was preparing to take Han Yang down even if he was punished by the sect leader, Han Yang spoke again. Elder Gu, if I were you, I would interrogate Yi Nantian as to who instigated him to deliberately provoke me, the genius on the overall list. Chapter 53 Violent Breakthrough. You are listening at novelfull.audio. My lies are deceiving the public. Elder Gu has a stubborn personality. How can Han Yang persuade him with just a few words? He narrowed his eyes and said coldly, even if Yi Nantian and the others are provoked, it is not the reason for you to take action privately and seriously hurt your fellow disciples. Genius on the overall list, it is the sect that gives you the glory, not your arrogance and domineering capital. Han Yang lowered his head and lightly dusted his sleeves, and said with a smile, Elder Gu, do you know why the disciples of the sect are as afraid of you as a tiger? Of course I am an upright man and enforce the law impartially. The ancient elder held his head high, not feeling the disadvantage of his disciples being afraid of him at all, but instead feeling proud of him. Han Yang shook his head and said with a smile, if this is really the case, the image of the elder in the eyes of the disciples should be that of a mirror hanging high in the sky, not an evil tiger that chooses people to devour. After hearing this, Deacon Liu on the side finally couldn't hold himself up anymore and knelt on the ground with a thud. No wonder Han Yang actually refused to become the master of the sect, he was completely crazy. However, what everyone did not expect was that after hearing this, Elder Gu did not become furious, but froze on the spot, with a trace of confusion in his eyes. He seemed lost in thought. The disciples of the law enforcement hall who had been standing next to Elder Gu and watching with cold eyes quickly said, Elder Gu, don't listen to Han Yang's nonsense. Before the man could finish his sentence, Han Yang suddenly turned into a phantom and punched him in the chest. Be bold. The lost elder was furious and wanted to capture Han Yang, but unexpectedly, the moment Elder Gu took action, Han Yang's figure swayed, and like a phantom, it passed by his palm. Phantom Cloud Step. With a flash of shadow, Han Yang arrived in front of the law enforcement hall disciple. Boom. The law enforcement hall disciple was directly punched away in front of everyone's shocked gazes. The person was still in the air, and the sound of broken bones already echoed through the night sky. Everyone is sluggish. No one expected that Han Yang would be so bold as to destroy a disciple of the law enforcement hall in front of Elder Gu. Yi Nantian looked horrified. He finally knew what a tough desperado he had provoked. Han Yang. You are so brave. Elder Gu was shocked and angry. He was a jade bone expert in the late stage of bone forging. He thought that he could take down any younger disciple with one hand, but he didn't expect that he would miss Han Yang. That flowing and carefree pace is not even weaker than Yuanman's top light body technique. This Han Yang really deserves to be called a genius. But the more this happened, the more determined the ancient elder was to punish Han Yang. If such unruly people cannot be tamed, the higher the talent, the greater the harm to the sect. Just when Elder Gu was about to speak, Han Yang said calmly, if my guess is correct, this person should be the one who encouraged Elder Gu to come here late at night, right? That just after Yi Nantian was deposed, Elder Gu showed up with someone. It was definitely not a coincidence. Elder Gu, whose jade bones were already flashing and ready to take action forcefully, couldn't help but be stunned. As the fourth elder of the law enforcement hall, he is naturally not a stupid person. After being pointed out by Han Yang, he also found that what happened tonight was too coincidental. Moreover, Han Yang was right, it was the deposed disciple who brought him here. You, Elder Gu, you can take them back for investigation. If you still want to punish me after finding out the truth, then I will be waiting for you at Jinjiaju. Han Yang waved his sleeves, and Shi Shiran walked into Jingya residence, leaving the famous ancient elder outside. Elder Gu's prim face had veins popping out, and he could hardly help but want to take action against Han Yang. But if it is true as Han Yang said, everything tonight is a calculation, then framing the genius on the overall list is far more serious than destroying a few core disciples. Notify the law enforcement team and take everyone away, Elder Gu shouted through gritted teeth, not to mention Deacon Lu who was paralyzed on the ground. Even the other disciple of the law enforcement hall next to Elder Gu was dumbfounded. The guy who took out the first newly promoted core disciple and the law enforcement hall disciple in succession was not taken away. Instead, these seriously injured people were arrested. Is this still the black-faced tiger who follows the sex rules meticulously and doesn't ask for the reason? Elder Gu, you can't do this yet. Han Yang seriously injured us and ruined our martial arts path. You. Yi Nantian was still shouting there, but Elder Gu had already walked away. If it is true as Han Yang said, everything tonight is a conspiracy. The dignified new core disciple who is number one has stupidly become someone else's pawn. It's okay not to use such a genius. Yi Nantian's eyes were dull, and he could hardly believe his eyes. Han Yang abandoned himself and walked away in such a swagger, but the people from the law enforcement hall actually wanted to take him away for interrogation. When did Yuan men become like this? Han Yang stood at the window of Jinjiaju, watching Yi Nantian and the others being carried away on a stretcher, his eyes full of smiles. The Li family really can't wait. On the first day after entering the Yuan sect, you actually persuaded Yi Nantian, one of the 7 sons, to jump out and challenge you. I'm curious about what tricks you have in store later. Han Yang's purpose in entering Yuan men was just to go to Yanhua Valley to investigate the truth behind Chen Yu's disappearance. He doesn't care about the sect's reputation at all, not to mention just one of the core disciples. Even if Zhang Wuyo, Yan Pianqing and others dare to set traps and deliberately provoke him to take action, he will not show mercy. Han Yang wants to scare and subdue Yuan men from top to bottom. When other people wanted to intervene in the feud between him and the Li family, they all considered whether they could afford to pay the price of provoking them. This generation's 7 geniuses, the number one among the newly promoted core disciples, were eliminated on the night they entered. I believe it will be very lively tomorrow. Han Yang was a little curious about how the Yuanmen's qi-gathering experts would handle this matter. You said. Han Yang directly destroyed Yi Nantian without saying a word. In a cave in the back mountain of Yuanmen, Li Yao spit out a sip of tea. In the name of Li Shushan, he came to inform the mad tiger Li Ying to find a way to kill Han Yang. Before Li Ying came out of seclusion, Oh Bo, the old housekeeper who served Li Ying, stepped in and directly arranged tonight's plot. Not only does Yi Nantian, one of the 7 geniuses, act as a chess piece, but he also has the dark-faced elder Hu Gu of the law enforcement hall as his chess piece. In Li Yao's view, it was almost impossible for Han Yang to break the game and escape the punishment of thinking over the cliff. As a result, Han Yang broke the situation so violently. Not only did Yi Nantian suffer serious injuries, he actually also destroyed the disciples placed by the Li family in the law enforcement hall. Ober sighed and said, I underestimated the value of a genius on the overall list. Now, I can only wait for the master to come out of seclusion and make calculations. Li Yao laughed sarcastically and picked up the teacup to show off, but in his heart he became more determined not to be Han Yang's enemy. This is a desperate lunatic. On that day, if Elder Mo of the Yuan clan hadn't stopped him, Han Yang would have planned to attack the Li family directly. Tonight, Yi Nantian, who was also the 7th genius, was eliminated without hesitation. Han Yang's behavior is completely unconventional and cannot be judged by common sense. By the way, Yi Nantian and the others won't betray us, right? Don't worry, if they don't know the severity, someone will tell them to shut up. Chapter 54 Hunting the Crazy Tiger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jinjiaju, Han Yang sat at the table, tasting various dishes with a calm expression, as if nothing happened last night. Deacon Lu, on the other hand, served carefully at the side with 2 dark circles under his eyes. He worried all night, fearing that people from the law enforcement hall would suddenly arrive and take him and Han Yang away together. As a result, until now, no one from the law enforcement hall has shown up. Deacon Lu was also becoming more mature with age, and gradually realized Han Yang's power, and now he became more and more respectful to Han Yang. The dishes now served to the latter are all top-notch medicinal foods, and their spiritual energy is very abundant, not to mention ordinary disciples, even direct disciples and major elders may not be able to receive such treatment. Ha ha ha, Brother Han, I came uninvited and took the liberty of disturbing you. Wearing the robe of his direct disciple and holding a folding fan, the handsome Zhang Wuyo stepped into Jinjiaju. Han Yang didn't take it seriously and didn't hold his chopsticks straight at all. Master Zhang. Deacon Lu was about to entertain the guests on Han Yang's behalf when he found that Zhang Wuyo had already sat down on his own. Why are you so blind? Go and get me a pair of chopsticks. You sit down without saying anything, but you still dare to instruct Deacon Lu. What else could Deacon Lu say? He could only leave honestly and go to the kitchen to get chopsticks. He found that he had served so many talented disciples, and this one was the most elusive. Both Han Yang and Zhang Wuyo are completely different from the proud, arrogant, reserved and distant geniuses in the past. Tell me what's going on. Get out of here immediately. I don't welcome bad guests here. Han Yang didn't like this smiling tiger who was somewhat similar to the sect leader Yuan. Zhang Wuyo didn't feel dissatisfied and said with a smile, then I'll be blunt. I think Brother Han doesn't seem to have ambitions in the Yuan sect, right? Han Yang paused with his chopsticks and said, just say I hate smart people. Seeing Han Yang admit it frankly, Zhang Wuyo was not surprised. As early as the meeting at Yanke Tower, he knew how eclectic Han Yang was in doing things. Han Yang seemed to have no regard for worldly rules at all, and he acted spontaneously and uninhibitedly. If I guess correctly, Brother Han entered Yuan to go to Yanhua Valley and investigate the truth behind Qin Yu's disappearance. Zhang Wuyo looked into Han Yang's eyes and said unhurriedly. Han Yang smiled. This Zhang Wuyo was really smart. After he entered the Yuan sect, he only did 2 things before he saw some clues. What a little fox. Tell me, what deal do you want to make with me? Brother Han, speak quickly. Although he had already made assumptions in his mind, Zhang Wuyo was still slightly shocked when he saw Han Yang admit it. In the eyes of the 9 cities' geniuses, Yuan is the sky, the ladder for them to climb upward. Every genius is proud to join the Yuan, but Han Yang, ranked 6th on the heavenly ranking and 98th on the overall ranking, became a disciple of the Yuan sect. His purpose was just to investigate the whereabouts of his father-in-law Qin Yu. Zhang Wuyo had to admit that he had only seen such a person in his life. Closing the folding fan, Zhang Wuyo said with a smile, the discovery of the ruins in Yanhua Valley is not a secret. Nowadays, there are indeed talented disciples in the Yuan sect who enter the ruins to explore. However, that is only for the second entry level. Having been direct disciples and core disciples for 3 years, new disciples like us are not qualified to enter the ruins because our cultivation is too low. Han Yang didn't stop using his chopsticks, because he knew that Zhang Wuyo would have something to say. I can let the family operate and get a place for you, Brother Han. The price is, you still help me kill someone. Knowing Han Yang's character, Zhang Wuyo didn't beat around the bush and directly stated his purpose. Han Yang put down his chopsticks and smiled. Let me guess, crazy tiger Li Ying. Zhang Wuyo smiled and said, Brother Han is indeed the smartest person I have ever seen. Han Yang ignored Zhang Wuyo's flattery and asked curiously, I'm very curious, why did the Li family offend you? If it's just to become a direct successor, killing Li Dian is enough. What about this Li Ying? Condition, that this time Zhang Wuyo just smiled and did not answer Han Yang's question. Han Yang just asked casually and did not get into any further trouble. He continued, Crazy Tiger Liang is about to break through to the late stage of bone forging. Kill him. 1 quota to enter Yanhua Valley is not enough. I need a knife, at least a low-grade spirit weapon. If you can get a middle-grade spiritual weapon, I will help you get rid of Liang within 3 months. Zhang Wuyo said angrily, Brother Han, it seems that the hatred between you and Liang is even deeper. I'm afraid you want him to die. Moreover, spiritual weapons are so precious. The treasure of my Zhang family is just a low-grade spiritual weapon. You want me to give you a medium-grade spiritual weapon? To put it bluntly, Crazy Tiger Liang's life is not worth the price. Then just pretend I didn't say anything. Please do as you please. Don't stay here and affect my appetite. Han Yang is so direct, if there is no good for you, just get out of here. Zhang Wuyo was immediately laughed out of anger. I have never seen such a Philistine person. A low-grade spiritual weapon, help me kill Liang within 3 months. No more. Zhang Wuyo glared at Han Yang. Make a deal. Han Yang did not hesitate. A low-grade spiritual weapon, pretty good. In the entire Luo city, only the city lord Nanjun has one in his hands, and none of the other major families have it. I don't know what secrets are hidden in this Wuyo. Even low-grade spiritual weapons can be traded. Huh, what a good brother Han. The spiritual weapon will be delivered tomorrow. I hope Brother Han will keep his promise and say goodbye. Zhang Wuyo turned and left with a dark face. When I went downstairs, I saw Deacon Lu holding chopsticks, spoons, dishes, and various tableware with a confused look on his face. Who are these people? Deacon Lu seriously suspected that Zhang Wuyo deliberately sneaked away to play with him. Deacon Lu, do you know Crazy Tiger Liang? Han Yang didn't care about Zhang Wuyo's stay and asked casually. Deacon Lu's heart twitched. Mr. Han, you can't have any bad thoughts about Mad Tiger. He was frightened by Han Yang. On the night of entry, Yinan, who was also the 7th genius, was destroyed. Now he wouldn't be eyeing the Crazy Tiger Liang again. Judging from Crazy Tiger Liang's ranking on the heavenly ranking, he must have tempered his golden bones, right? Han Yang continued to ask. It's a golden bone. 6th level of bone forging. Yes, but it is said that he is in retreat and has broken through the 7th level of bone forging. What weapon was used? Zhan Ji. Mr. Han, you must not take action against Mad Tiger. His status is definitely not comparable to that of Yinan. His legs were weakened by Han Yang's continuous questions, and Deacon Lu already felt that he had made a mistake in serving Han Yang. When Li Xuanyu, the wine and sword immortal, entered the sect, he was not as arrogant as this one. On the first day, the new core disciple was dethroned. The next day, I set my sights on the Crazy Tiger Liang, who was ranked 85 on the heavenly ranking. Deacon Lu had almost anticipated his miserable end. Just when Deacon Lu was scared to death, Han Yang spoke again. Oh, by the way, let me ask, where can I get a lot of elixirs in Yuan men? Chapter 55 Han Yang is a swordsman monster. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is this the Earth Yuan jade that Deacon Lu mentioned? Han Yang curiously looked at the black jade that stood like a screen wall in a glorious palace. In the morning, when he asked Deacon Lu how to obtain elixirs in large quantities, Deacon Lu recommended the Yuan jade. Bone forging uses the power of qi and blood to temper the bones, which is an extremely slow process. Ordinary qualifications, such as the first elder, second elder and others of the Qin family, would take 3 or 4 years. To temper a single bone, at the age of 50 or 60, he can only temper a dozen bones and forge bones to the 4th or 5th level. First-class geniuses like Liang and Yan Pianqing can temper a skeleton in almost a month or 2 with the help of Yuanmen's elixirs and techniques. After about 10 years of basic entry, you can reach the peak of bone forging. This is the difference between genius and mortal. Han Yang, after tempering 4 bones in a month, reached the 3rd level of bone forging, which is already the level of a heaven-level genius. But for Han Yang himself, he still felt it was too slow. Once Liang breaks through to the 7th level of bone forging, the number of bones that have been tempered will reach 64, coupled with the quality of its golden bones. which is 1 to 3, it is almost equivalent to the ordinary 8-level bone forging that tempers 192 bones. With Han Yang's current strength, even with the power of the stars, he would never be invincible. Therefore, he must consume a large amount of elixir to speed up his awakening. And this so-called Earth Yuan Jade is the best way to obtain a large amount of elixirs. However, when Deacon Lu mentioned the Yuan Jade Bai, he was obviously a little reluctant. He seemed to think that it was impossible for Han Yang to obtain the elixir from the Yuan Jade Bai. After being threatened twice by Han Yang, he changed his mind and enthusiastically recommended this Yuan men's secret realm. In front of the Yuan Jade, there were more than a dozen old men dressed in elder attire sitting cross-legged, all seeming to be waiting for something. The next moment, a white shadow appeared on the dark earth jade. The white shadow held a long sword and performed a set of mysterious sword techniques. But halfway through the execution of the sword technique, it suddenly got stuck, as if there was something not quite right. After a moment, the white shadow disappeared, and a few lines of writing appeared on the jade. The waning moon sword technique has a total of 9 styles. Now 3 styles are missing, leaving only 6 styles. Perfect the 7th form and get a fire essence fruit. Perfect the 8th form, 7-leaf Yuanling fruit, 1 piece. Perfect the 9th form, 1,000-year blood Ganoderma lucidum. Finally, there are the texts of the first 6 movements of the Xianxia sword technique. This is how the Earth Origin Jade Bai obtains the elixir. People from the 18 branch sects of Yuan Zone can publish the exercises that need to be perfected or the unclear points in the exercises on Yuan Yubi. As long as you can answer these questions, you will get corresponding rewards. Every year during the main sect's martial arts competition, how many questions above the Earth Origin Jade Bai can be answered by the branch sects is also an important basis for allocating resources. It can be said that the Yuan Zone's vigorous development was indispensable to the Yuan Jade system. The Fire Origin Fruit is already a rare elixir, the 7-leaf Origin Spirit Fruit, the Millennium Blood Ganoderma lucidum, and even more rare treasures are rare. The people of Yuan Zone are really generous. Han Yang seemed to be able to see countless elixirs waving to him. It's the waning moon sword technique again. Isn't Nangong you bored? No one has been able to perfect this sword technique for 10 years, and he actually took the trouble to teach it. Forget it, wait for the next one. The elders sitting cross-legged had obviously seen the bounty offered by the waning moon sword technique and were not interested at all. Han Yang was moved in his heart. Naturally, he has never learned rubbish swordsmanship like the Xianxia swordsmanship, but for the god of war in the divine realm, perfecting such a poor swordsmanship is simply easy. Ignoring the reactions of others, Han Yang used his finger as a pen to write a line of words on the jade. The spiritual sword is hidden in the moon, gathering the bright moonlight. The heart of the sword cannot be wrested, and the spirit is concentrated to do nothing. Han Yang's actions immediately attracted the attention of those elders. Stop! Who asked you to scribble on the jade? This place is the sect's secret place. How did you get in? Damn it, let a new disciple you by ask. We're afraid we will be laughed to death by other sects. Several elders were furious, and some even stood up to take Han Yang down. The Jade Bai of the Earth Yuan Jade asked, but it was a matter of face for each sect. If you answer too naively, you will be laughed at by the entire sect. This is something more important than life and death. Just as the elders stood up, a word flashed on the jade. Yes. The elders instantly stopped in shock. Can the sarcastic and extremely picky Nangong Yu actually accepted this junior's answer so quickly? Possibly perfecting the 7th form, that on the Jade Bai, Nangong Yu's handwriting is displayed. All the elders subconsciously turned their attention to Han Yang, and several elders even swallowed nervously. This is a question that Yubi has been asking for 10 years and no one has been able to answer it. If the disciples of the Yuan sect answer the question, then the Yuan sect will definitely become famous among the 18 sects in this general sect competition. Han Yang did not continue to answer the question, but looked at the purple-robed disciple standing aside. This is the person from the Yuan Zone head sect who is responsible for guarding the Yuan Jade Bai and issuing rewards. Several elders were almost furious to death. Doesn't this junior know how important this issue is to everyone in the Yuan clan? He actually still cares about the reward. Give him. Yuan Tiancong, Give him the reward quickly. Several elders yelled at the purple-robed disciples. Purple-robed disciple Yuan Tiancong was also amused by Han Yang's eyes and said, "Junior brother, don't worry, Yuan Zong's reputation will not be short of your reward, just answer the questions with peace of mind." Han Yang shook his head and said, "It's better to be safe." Yuan Tiancong was startled at first, and then laughed angrily. Does this mean he doesn't believe in the credibility of the Yuan sect? Somebody come. Yuan Tiancong clapped his hands, and immediately someone held a jade box and placed it in front of Han Yang. Seeing that Han Yang actually wanted to reach out and open the jade box to check the authenticity of the elixir, everyone stared. Dare! Who is this bastard? He can be so naughty. Han Yang retracted his hand and continued to write the last two sword techniques on the jade bai. The moon covers the sky and will rain, the clanging sword and the roar of the dragon, the shining seven-star moon, can slay the armies of the world. The sword hangs 3 feet high in the heart, and the evil spirits are stationed in the dantian. The sword comes out of the Guanhan Palace, and there is light in all directions. Although these elders were all peak bone forging experts, they were somewhat unable to understand the swordsmanship described by Han Yang. 2 of the swordsman masters were also contemplating and had gained a little. On the contrary, Yuan Tiancong, who was standing next to the jade bai, had a look of surprise in his eyes. He used his fingers as a sword, making dots one after another, and there was a faint flow of moonlight between his fingertips. Good swordsmanship. Yuan Tiancong was shocked and looked at Han Yang, who was several years younger than him, in great surprise. This son's achievements in swordsmanship have reached the pinnacle. In addition to Li Xuanyu, the wine sword immortal, when did another swordsman monster appear in the Yuan sect? Can. On the jade biscuit, 2 words Ku appeared one after another. The writing was extremely sloppy, which showed the excitement in Nangong Yu's heart. Han Yang looked at Yuan Tiancong with a smile on his face. Bring the money. No, bring the elixir. Chapter 56 Little One Ho Lu Fengxian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yuan Tiancong came from Yuanzong and his vision was much broader than others. Seeing that Han Yang was so talented in swordsmanship, he thought of making friends, but before he could speak, he saw that Han Yang was afraid that he would not give him the elixir, and he was speechless. This genius disciple of the Yuan sect is good at everything, but his greedy and suspicious nature makes people dumbfounded. How could it be possible that the dignified envoy of the general sect would miss these few elixirs from you? Come here. Give him the elixir. Yuan Tiancong almost gritted his teeth and blurted out a few words. Han Yang didn't care at all. For him, the elixir was the most real thing. As for the appreciation of the general envoy, it has nothing to do with him. Your name is Han Yang. Look at the mark on your clothes. You are a new disciple. Whose disciple are you? The elders before Yubi were surprised by Han Yang's talent and all came forward to talk, especially the eyes of the 2 swordsman elders were shining brightly, a swordsman genius and a new disciple. Could he be Li Yuan's new disciple? Seeing that these old men wanted to come over and chat with him, Han Yang said helplessly, Elders, I want to continue asking about the jade bis to get the elixir. The meaning is obvious. I'm very busy, please don't disturb me. The elders were all startled. Continue to ask Yubi. Yubi asked how it could be that simple. None of these elders found a question and pondered it for months, or even years, before they could barely answer 1 or 2. Common simple problems can be solved by each branch within the branch. Only those extremely difficult questions will need Yubi to ask. This kid is really arrogant. Several elders stepped back with laughter, happy to see Han Yang deflated. When this kid answered the second question, we knew how powerful this Yubi asked. Thinking back to the beginning, they came here with great ambition, thinking that they could solve the world's doubts. As a result, in the face of reality, he was beaten to death. Soon, the white shadow reappeared on the earth Yuan jade. This time, it turned out to be a problem in refining medicine. After some demonstrations and descriptions, the final problem is to complete the qi gathering pill prescription. Ha! It's that old boy Lu Buqian again. He actually brings up this kind of problem. Yuanzong has a problem that has not been solved for 2,000 years. He actually thinks that he can get the answer by asking Yubi. It's simply ridiculous. Well, if the qi-gathering pill had not been lost, my Yuan sect's qi-gathering power would not be so rare. Pity. The elders before you be lamented, this qi-gathering pill was once Yuan Zong's top prescription. After taking qi-gathering pill, the success rate of qi-gathering can be increased by 30%, it was precisely because of the existence of this qi-gathering pill that Yuan Zong was able to shock the 7 southern counties 2,000 years ago. Unfortunately, since the first pharmacist of Yuanzong was ambushed and died in the past, the qi-gathering pill prescription has been lost since then. The difficulty of gathering qi can be seen from the amount of qi-gathering power Yuan man has at this time. First-class geniuses like Li Ying and Yan Pianying can reach the peak of bone forging and start to gather energy in about 10 years, even the second-rate second-level geniuses, such as Zhang Wuyo, Jiang Ziyu and others, will reach the peak of bone forging within 20 years. There are 3 or 2 second-grade geniuses discovered by the sect every year, even if there is a first-class genius. One will always appear in 3 to 5 years. The Yuan sect has accumulated thousands of years of accumulation, and the number of qi-gathering powers is only more than 20. I don't know how many geniuses are so high-spirited in the bone-forging realm, but they fail in the qi-gathering realm. But if there is a qi-gathering pill, not only is a first-grade genius almost certain to become a qi-gathering pill, but even a second-grade genius is more than 50% certain. By then, the number of Yuanmen's qi-gathering powers will not be less than 100. It's a pity that these can only be fantasies that the elders chat about to comfort themselves. The qi-gathering pill has been lost and no one has the ability to complete it. Just right, let's see how that little guy responds. The elders were enjoying themselves and looked at Han Yang one after another, but he found that Han Yang actually looked at Yuan Tiancong. Yuan Tiancong looked confused. If you don't answer the question, let's see what I do, Han Yang said angrily. I looked at the rewards for completing the qi-gathering pill. 10,000-year elixir, 100,000-year elixir. Do you have any in stock here? Yuan Tiancong was so stunned that he didn't spit out a mouthful of blood. This bastard actually doubted that Yuan Zong couldn't get the reward. He wanted to tell Han Yang that just fill in the prescription and I will give you the elixir right away. It's a pity that the reward of this qi-gathering pill is really not in his hands, not to mention the 100,000-year-old elixir, even the 10,000-year-old elixir. They are all treasures of the Yuan sect. How could they be placed in a small branch of the sect? A slap in the face. I was slapped in the face by this money-grubbing boy. Yuan Tiancong could only shake his head with a dark face. What a pity, let's go to the next question. Han Yang said, slightly disappointed. Yuan Tiancong was really hurt internally now. Asshole. What's going on with your damn tone? Is the elixir really here, so you can make up the qi-gathering pill prescription on the spot? The elders were also speechless. This young man was really unwilling to admit defeat, and he was so arrogant. Han Yang didn't explain either. Although he is not a full-time alchemist, he has been reborn for the 9th time and has extensive knowledge. Finding a prescription that has the same effect as the qi-gathering pill is really not a big problem. It's a pity that I can't get the elixir on the spot, so I don't bother to go to the trouble. The third question is a detailed explanation of the second form of Marquis Wen's halberd method. Marquis Wen was an unrivaled strong man thousands of years ago. He once performed the feat of using qi-gathering realm to defeat Yuan Dan. This person's Marquis Wen's halberd technique is so profound that ordinary people can't even touch the edges. Even though this halberd technique is spread in small towns like Luo City, no one can understand its mystery. Yubi asked. Since he asked for a detailed explanation of the second form of Wenho Jifa, he naturally had some understanding of the first form. After reading the description of the first halberd technique, Han Yang's eyes flashed with surprise. This is not a special skill of gathering energy, it is clearly a god-level battle method. This Marquis Wen's halberd technique, even in the god realm, is a very extraordinary magical skill, and it has actually spread to this small world. After thinking for a while, Han Yang carved with his fingers and left a line of words. I want the entire book of Marquis Wen's halberd technique. The person on the other side didn't even hesitate and responded directly, yes. This Marquis Wen's halberd technique is something that can only be found on the street. It is a unique skill that can be bought at any street stall, so there is no need to be stingy. Han Yang swishly wrote the answer, and added an extra sentence at the end. the Wenhou method should be used in conjunction with a special internal qi technique. Without the coordination of the Qigong method, it can only be practiced to the third form at most, and its power will be insignificant. The surrounding elders and Yuan Tiancong looked at each other in shock, real or fake. Is this guy really able to explain the Marquis Wen's halberd technique in detail? It's not just nonsense, however. The next moment, a word came from the Jade, yes. Within the main sect of Yuanzong, which is thousands of miles away from Yuan Men, a red-haired, jade-faced qi-gathering expert in his 20s suddenly stood up in front of the Earth Yuan Jade Bai. Come here. Prepare to fly eagle. I want to rush to the Yuan Men branch of the 9 cities, that if anyone sees this person, they will definitely recognize him. This person is 7th in the list of the heavenly ranking, the peak energy gathering power. Xiao Wenhou Lu Fengxian. Chapter 57 Empty Yuan Tiancong's Elixir. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yuan Tiancong couldn't hide the shock in his eyes, and without even waiting for Han Yang's signal, he immediately handed over the prize for the detailed explanation of the second and third moves of Marquis Wen's halberd technique. Then he looked at Han Yang with burning eyes. That look couldn't be more obvious. Good boy, keep going. These old men of Yuan Men didn't know what it meant to explain in detail the second and third moves of Marquis Wen's halberd technique, but he knew it very well. Yuan Zong's #1 genius in the past century, Xiao Wenhou Lu Fengxian, reached the 7th position on the overall list of the climbing heaven ranking just by virtue of his understanding of the first form of Wenhou's halberd technique. Now, the second and third moves are unblocked. As expected, Lu Fengxian may go one step further, Qianlong. With the detailed explanation of these 2 or 3 movements, Xiao Wenhou Lu Fengxian may become the first person to be on the Qianlong list in Yuanzong in 100 years. Thinking of this, Yuan Tiancong's eyes changed when he looked at Han Yang. This is a new disciple of the Yuan sect. He is simply a treasure bestowed by God on the 18 sects of the Yuan sect. After Han Yang got the jade box, he nodded with satisfaction. Millennium elixir, 4 pieces. The reward for the detailed explanation of the second and third moves of Marquis Wen's halberd technique is actually 4,000-year-old elixirs. 1,000-year-old elixir is enough for him to attack the 4th acupoint, and 4,000-year elixir may have a chance to attack the 5th acupoint. This Yuan zone really has a profound foundation. Han Yang continued to look at the Earth Yuan Jade with greedy eyes. Today, if Yuan Tiancong is not out of pocket, he is not going to leave. The third question is to crack the 5-element sect's 5-element combined attack method, 1,000-year-old elixir. The fourth question is, the method to perfectly open the fire body, the 1,000-year elixir. The fifth question is the advanced method of regretting the sword, 1,000-year elixir. In less than 2 hours, Han Yang had solved 5 jade stones in a row. The elders around him were like young men in a secular academy, standing aside and watching Han Yang answer questions. If Han Yang only answered the jade by question about swordsmanship, maybe they just thought that Han Yang was talented in swordsmanship, but Han Yang was excellent at all of them: sword, alchemy, formation, and halberd. This made everyone feel insignificant. Facing Han Yang, they all felt that their lives had been in vain for the past few decades. Even Yuan Tiancong was shocked to the point of numbness. This kid, if the reward of the qi-gathering pill is there, he can't really complete the prescription, right? That this idea popped up in Yuan Tiancong's mind involuntarily, which even shocked him. How can it be? No matter how evil he is just an 18-year-old new disciple, and he is not. The next moment, he saw Han Yang waving at him. Yuan Tiancong was stunned. Han Yang glared. Why are you pretending to be stupid? There's a magic medicine. Yuan Tiancong didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and hurriedly asked his men to offer him the elixir. Mr. Yuan. The man lowered his voice and said, the last 1,000-year elixir. Yuan Tiancong couldn't help but tremble. My God, I was actually fucked by this kid. In the past, 1 or 2 months, or even 1.5 years, might not deliver a 1,000-year elixir, but now, one person actually emptied the reward medicine storehouse in 1 day. Ahem. Junior brother Han will be here today. The sect master has something urgent to call upon, and I must leave here. Yuan Tiancong had to interrupt Han Yang's answer. Be good. If he continues to answer, he will really not be able to come up with the elixir. Han Yang glanced at Yuan Tiancong and said, "No more magic medicine." Yuan Tiancong had a dark face and naturally couldn't admit it. Han Yang chuckled and forgot to glance at the Dun Jade with a hint of regret. Han Yang. Just when the elder before Yubi was about to take the opportunity to make friends, 3 figures suddenly came from outside the hall. Where is Han Yang? That the leader was none other than the ancient elder of the law enforcement hall last night. Elder Gu had a stunned look on his face and said solemnly, "The new disciple Han Yang took action for no reason, causing the new core disciple Yi Nantian to be seriously injured and died. He committed a heinous crime and is punished by being sentenced to 5 years on the cliff. Come with us." As soon as he said this, everyone in the audience was shocked. "Stop. Gu, you dare to attack the sect's elite, I've turned against you. Let's see who dares to take action." More than a dozen elders all stood between Han Yang and the ancient elders, preventing the people from the law enforcement hall from taking Han Yang away. What a joke! Han Yang was able to solve 5 jade questions in 1 day. This was a feat that had never been achieved since the founding of the Yuan men. Based on these 5 questions alone, the resources available to Yuan men for this year's general sect martial arts competition can be increased by more than 30%. Such talented people who have made great contributions to the sect actually want to go over the cliff and ruin their future in martial arts. The people in the law enforcement hall are really stupid. Even Yuan Tiancong, who came from the main sect, had a strange look in his eyes. The people of Yuan men must be crazy, actually pushing such a genius out. However, Yuan Tiancong quickly retracted his impulse to stop him. That's fine. If Han Yang offends the Yuan sect because of this, he can inform the main sect and directly incorporate Han Yang into the main sect. This is not because the main sect is robbing the talents of the subordinate sects, but because they themselves do not know how to cherish them. Yi Nantian is dead. Han Yang smiled calmly, "That's right. A useless abandoned son is naturally more valuable dead than alive. It seems that crazy Tiger Liang is more ruthless and decisive than I thought." As early as last night when he took action, Han Yang had anticipated that such a result might occur. For others, punishing someone like crossing a cliff may mean ending their path to martial arts, but as long as he has the elixir, he can attack the acupoints and improve his cultivation. He really doesn't care about this. I just don't know if Zhang Wuyo can help him get a place to go to Yenhua Valley after entering Sigua Cliff. "You dare to obstruct the law enforcement hall." Elder Gu was also shocked by the situation in front of him. What's going on? How can a group of old antiques who don't care about worldly affairs protect a new disciple like this? Just because Han Yang is the 98th on the overall list. If the mind is not right, the higher the talent, the more harmful it will be. The bones all over the ancient elder's body shone brightly, and the pressure of the peak bone forging peak swept over the entire audience. "Gu people, do you think we are those little kids? The peak of bone forging? We act like we are not. There are more than a dozen elders, each exuding the majestic aura of the peak bone forging peak, and many of them are more powerful than the ancient elders." In front of the Jade, the situation was tense. "You." Elder Gu's face was ashen and he wished he could beat all these old fools to death. "Elders." Han Yang stepped forward with a smile, "Thank you all for coming forward and protecting me. However, it has been 2 days since I joined Yuan men and I have not yet been to the famous Sigua Cliff. I just went to observe it, so you don't need to worry." Seeing Han Yang take the initiative, Elder Gu also breathed a sigh of relief. If he really had to conflict with these old stubborns, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. "Boy Han, don't worry, I will go to the sect master to intercede for you now. Even the law enforcement hall cannot cover the sky with one hand. I was kind to Li Yuan in the past, so I asked him to come forward to protect you as a disciple." The elders were all talking, and seemed unwilling to give up with the ancient elder, but Han Yang had already smiled and looked at the old man next to the ancient elder who looked at him with resentful eyes. "What do you call this person? Do we have a grudge?" The old man said viciously, "I am Yi Nantian's third uncle. If you kill Nantian, I and you will die." Boom! Before the old man could finish his sentence, Han Yang had already slashed out with his sword. destroying almost all of the jade bones he had forged. I'm only at the 6th level of bone forging, but I dare to sow discord and secretly use tricks against myself. Han Yang's voice was as cold as a knife. Chapter 58. The 4th Acupoint opens. You are listening at novelfull.audio. How brave, that the ancient elder's clothes were billowing and he clapped his hands. This guy is really brave. He had already been punished to the point where he had to go to the cliff, but he still dared to hurt someone in front of him. Han Yang put away his sword and stood up, looking at the ancient elder with a smile. Elder, what are you doing? Isn't it just to destroy a 6th level bone forging? You can continue to ask for instructions and punish me for facing the wall for a few more years. You. Elder Gu's palm stopped in front of Han Yang's face, unable to move down, 98 on the overall list. This level of status made it impossible for him to kill Han Yang, not to mention that Han Yang didn't resist at all. You cunning and vicious little thing. Elder Qian Ben was almost bewitched by you last night. With such a vicious and cruel temperament like yours, I will definitely ask the sect master for instructions so that you will never be able to get out of Sigua Cliff for the rest of your life. Elder Gu, who abides by the sect's rules and has a dull personality, is really in love with Han Yang, a lawless guy. The other elders before Yubi and Yuan Tiancong were also speechless. This boy named Han is not only greedy and suspicious of money, but he is also so ruthless. After all, a person with the 6th level of bone forging can be scrapped at the drop of a hat. Han Yang held the jade box and said calmly, Elder Gu, please lead the way. I have just been here at Yuanmen for 2 days, and I still don't know where Sigua Cliff is. Elder Gu was almost blown out of his lungs. Han Yang's attitude didn't look like he was being punished for thinking about crossing the cliff. He was clearly going for an outing to enjoy the scenery. Boy, don't be complacent. Even if I use up half of my life's connections, this time, you will stay in Sigua until you rot. Elder Gu waved his hand bitterly, gesturing for the disciples of the law enforcement hall to come forward. Several law enforcement hall disciples were so frightened that they didn't dare to come forward at all. This guy surnamed Han was so cruel. The old man from the Yi family just said a word of resentment and was directly eliminated. God knows if he will suddenly show his power and destroy them too. Lead the way, I'm in a hurry. Han Yang could not wait to refine the elixir and practice. He had no time to spend time with these people. A bunch of trash. Elder Gu cursed angrily and stepped forward in person to escort Han Yang to Sigua Cliff. Originally, according to the previous rules, if you wanted to cross the cliff face, you needed to be handcuffed and shackled, but just as Elder Gu was about to take action, he was stopped by those elders who were watching him eagerly. If any ancient elder dared to shackle Han Yang's hands and feet, they would violently injure others. Han Yang suddenly discovered that these old men from Yuan men were a bit cute. After bowing his hands and thanking these elderly people, Han Yang strode toward Sigua Cliff. The so-called Sigua Cliff is actually a cave in the back mountain of Yuanmen. However, the formations engraved on the stone walls here cut off the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, making it impossible to practice at all. Even a first-class genius would be lost to everyone after staying in a place like this for a year or two. Thinking over a cliff is a more terrifying punishment than other physical punishments, especially for a warrior of Han Yang's age. If he is locked up here for a period of time, he will not be able to absorb the vitality of heaven and earth, and will not be able to improve his cultivation. How can he catch up with others? Not bad. You guys can leave now, don't disturb my rest. Han Yang took a brief look at the environment of Siguoyadong Mansion and waved his hand to tell Elder Gu and others to get out. Boy! Even now, you are still so unrepentant. Old man. Elder Gu wanted to say something else, but Han Yang shot him back. I'm being punished to think about crossing a cliff, not being punished to listen to your blabbering. Get out of here. Han Yang had long disliked this ancient elder, as he said so clearly last night. Not only did this old boy fail to investigate and find out the truth of the matter, he actually let Yi Nantian die in his hands. Han Yang didn't bother to listen to such a waste. If this old boy continues to be ignorant, Han Yang would not mind opening an orifice and killing him with the power of the stars. With these 1,000-year-old elixirs in hand, opening an acupuncture point would only delay 1 or 2 months of cultivation. it's worth it to find someone with a clear mind. You. The undisguised murderous intent in Han Yang's eyes left Elder Gu speechless. With a wave of his hand angrily, he could only lead the people from the law enforcement hall and walk away. After everyone left, Han Yang sat cross-legged and opened one of the jade boxes. 1,000-year-old blood Ganoderma. It's a good thing. Its quality is hundreds of times better than the three-eyed living flower. Perhaps, just this elixir can open the fourth acupoint. The 9 turns of stars formula, the fourth acupoint of Ren Meridian, is the Huagai point. This is a very special hole. The first 3 acupoints of the Ren Meridian, Huiyin, Yutong, and Zigong, are all acupoints responsible for killing. As the name suggests, the Huagai point gathers the water vapor from the sky coming from the Zigong point. This qi is like the outer protective cover of the human body. This is a defensive acupoint. Once activated, the defense will be greatly increased. Swallow the 1,000-year blood Ganoderma lucidum in one gulp and begin to transform it into the power of the stars. Boom! The moment the medicine's power was activated, Han Yang could feel that it was much more powerful than the fire spirit fruit and other elixirs. In an instant, the transformed star power began to impact Huagai point on its own initiative. Han Yang only felt the Huagai point on his chest jump. As if water had come naturally, the Huagai point was opened without any hindrance. This was the easiest time for Han Yang to charge acupuncture points since he practiced the 9 turns of stars art. There wasn't even a feeling of suffocation. The acupuncture points had been opened. It is indeed a 1,000-year-old elixir with strong medicinal power. The next moment, the power of the stars circulated in the 4 acupoints of the Ren Meridian, and then converged on the arms, starting to temper the bones. In the past, the tempering of bones could be completed almost instantly when the acupoints were successfully punched, but this time, the time was extremely long. The quality of gold bones is much higher than ordinary quality. Han Yang vaguely discovered that the 3rd level of bone forging, the golden bone, was even comparable to the 5th level of bone forging, with 16 shoulder forging bones. This was only 0.5% weaker than the method of opening the body of the 9 turns of stars. As expected, no technique should be underestimated. Even the lower realm techniques have their merits. 1,000-year elixir is not enough, so let's get another one. Han Yang swallowed the next 1,000-year elixir again. This is the first time since Han Yang has been practicing the 9 turns of stars technique that he needs more elixirs to assist in forging his bones, but if he can also be tempered to the level of golden bones, his combat effectiveness will be greatly improved. 5, 6, 7, 8. Each bone changes from white to jade, and then from jade to gold. An hour later, Han Yang's arms flashed with golden light. Golden bones, 4 levels of forging bones, done. At this time, Han Yang could easily defeat the 6th or 7th level of ordinary bone forging with the power of golden bones alone. If the power of the stars and the 9 turns of stars art is added to it, even Han Yang himself cannot estimate his true combat effectiveness at this time. There are still 4,000-year-old elixirs left. Perhaps, you can try hitting the Tianta point. Glancing at the elixir in the jade box, Han Yang gritted his teeth and chose to continue his breakthrough. Qinyu, the cheap father-in-law, offended too many enemies. Just opening 4 of them may not be enough to deal with the enemies that come one after another. The Millennium Elixir. 3,000-year-old elixir. After 5,000-year-old elixirs were transformed into the power of stars, Han Yang realized that he had underestimated the difficulty of opening the 9-turn star technique. Every time one more orifice is opened, the difficulty of opening it will increase several times. Damn it, I really don't believe this evil. Just open it. After swallowing the last 1,000-year elixir, he didn't even let go of the remaining 7-leaf elixir. Han Yang made a desperate move and even used the energy in the golden bone to attack the 5th acupoint. Chapter 59 Sacrifice the Knife in My Hand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wuyo, I think Han Yang is reckless and ignorant. He does whatever he wants based on his talent. He is not worthy of the Zhang family's efforts. Uncle, believe me, Wuyo will never see the wrong person. Han Yang's move must have deep meaning. In front of Sigua Cliff in the night, 2 figures stood. One of them is the new direct disciple, Zhang Wuyo, the 3rd son of the Zhang family. The other one was an octogenarian, with a rickety figure and even a slight decline in vitality and blood. he is Zhang Jing, the ancestor of the Zhang family and one of the peak elders of the Yuan sect's bone forging. Zhang Jing took a deep look at Zhang Wuyo and said no more. The latter is the Zhang family's first genius in 300 years, and the only person in the Zhang family who has any hope of attacking Qi gathering. His decision almost represents the will of the Zhang family, and even he, the ancestor, cannot stand in the way. Stop. Sigüoya is a forbidden area, and no one else is allowed to enter. As soon as the two appeared on Sigua Cliff, they were stopped by a figure. This man is clearly a 7th-level bone-forging expert, which shows that Sigüoya's defense is tight. Zhang Jing calmly took out a token and said in a deep voice, "I came here on the orders of Deputy Sect Master Tian to meet Han Yang." The 7th-level bone-forging warrior carefully inspected the token, then nodded slightly and turned sideways to let it go. "You only have 1 stick of incense time, so you must not delay it for no reason." After Zhang Jing and Zhang Wuyo disappeared, the 7th-level bone-forging warrior waved his hand, and someone appeared beside him. "Go and notify Crazy Tiger, just say, people from the Zhang family are here to visit Han Yang, that every cell in Sigüoya is made of ice black iron and is indestructible. Even a peak bone-forging expert cannot destroy the prison and escape from it. Coupled with the fact that there is no spiritual energy for cultivation here, the warriors who were punished at Sigua Cliff would be worse off than dead. In just a few years, their path to martial arts can almost be cut off." When Zhang Jing and Zhang Wuyo walked into Sigua Cliff, they could hear the murmurs of many crazy people. Those were crazy warriors who had been imprisoned for too long and suffered mental breakdown. Many of them had the reputation of being geniuses in the past, but just a few years or even a few months in this cliff of thinking will destroy your will, and you will never be able to climb the peak of martial arts in this life. There are so many people like this. In the night, thin whispers were heard in the ears, making the place look like hell and making people's hair stand on end. Even with Zhang Jing's mind, he felt more than just a chill behind his back. Zhang Wuyo, on the other hand, looked calm, as if he couldn't hear the screams and murmurs of the prisoners. They didn't stop until they reached a cave on the left side of the cliff. This is where Han Yang is imprisoned. When the two of them saw the situation in the cell through the moonlight, their expressions couldn't help but change slightly. "I thought that Han Yang, who was imprisoned in Sigua Cliff, would be restless and even furious." Unexpectedly, this guy was sitting cross-legged with a peaceful expression, as if he was practicing a special technique. Hearing the footsteps, Han Yang opened his eyes slightly indifferently. "While I'm thinking about crossing the cliff, I still don't forget to practice." Brother Han is really in a good mood. Zhang Wuyo smiled and cupped his hands with an appreciative look on his face. He is not afraid of being favored or humiliated, and he is indeed someone whom Zhang Wuyo values. It seems that the things were obtained in advance. Han Yang stood up and looked at Zhang Wuyo. On the contrary, Zhang Jing, the elder at the peak of bone forging, was completely ignored by him. Zhang Wuyo nodded, took out a 4-foot-long wooden box from behind, and stuffed it into the stone prison along the gap. Han Yang opened the wooden box and immediately felt a refreshing chill. A 4-foot-long knife with a simple style lay quietly in the wooden box. When the wooden box was opened, the blade actually let out a Qingyue dragon roar. What struck Han Yang the most was that the blade of the Bing Chang Dao was as white as snow, which looked a bit strange. This sword is called Qishue, and it is the best among lower-grade spiritual weapons. According to legend, if you can communicate with it spiritually, you can even exert the power of a mid-grade spiritual weapon. I think you will not be disappointed, Brother Han. Zhang Wuyo's eyes were smiling, and there was no trace of reluctance on his face, as if what he was giving away was not a low-grade spiritual weapon that could be used as a family treasure, but a piece of ordinary iron, Sanglang. Han Yang drew his sword out of its sheath and struck it directly on the prison door made of ice-black iron in front of him. Zheng. The ice-black iron, which was invulnerable even at the peak of bone forging, was actually cut off directly by the snow-defying knife. Han Yang put the knife into its sheath and laughed. "It's really a good knife." Zhang Jing on the side looked at the severed cell door and twitched the corners of his mouth fiercely. After thinking about crossing the cliff, he actually dared to break the prison door. This Han Yang was indeed as arrogant and unruly as the legend said. Zhang Wuyo took out another token from his arms and said, "With this token, Brother Han can enter Yanhua Valley." As expected of a big family, the work efficiency is very high. I am very satisfied. Han Yang took the token unceremoniously and put it in his arms. Zhang Wuyo laughed, always feeling that there was a hint of ridicule in Han Yang's words. Seeing that Han Yang seemed to have no intention of leaving the prison, Zhang Wuyo asked in surprise, "Brother Han, aren't you planning to leave now?" That even Yi Nantian, who was the #1 new core disciple, dared to depose him. Zhang Wuyo didn't think Han Yang would care about Siguiya's rules. Han Yang said calmly, "How can I leave without killing the person I want to kill? Mr. Zhang, please invite me." Zhang Wuyo was used to Han Yang's attitude of turning his back on him as soon as he got a benefit, so he nodded and left. Zhang Jing on the side hesitated to speak, only feeling that his worldview of the past century had been overturned by these two juniors. In just a few words, one of them sent out a top-grade spiritual weapon, and the other even waved his hand impatiently to chase away the guests. Do all young people today do things this way? After leaving Sigua Cliff, Zhang Jing couldn't help but said, "Wuyo, this Han Yang." Before he finished speaking, Zhang Wuyo shook his head with a strange expression. "It's really amazing. In just 2 days, he actually made a breakthrough again. With such talent, Li Xuanyu, who is known as a heaven-level genius, is probably no more than this." "Uncle, you don't have to worry." In the stone cave prison, Han Yang sat cross-legged, placing the snow-controlling knife across his knees, feeling the coldness emanating from the blade. "This knife is undoubtedly stronger than the Tiancong knife." Zhang Wuyo didn't lie. This spiritual sword was no less than a middle-grade spiritual weapon. Han Yang used the method of distinguishing weapons from the god realm in his previous life. He poured the power of the stars into the blade and could clearly feel the fine cracks on the blade. This is a remnant. He had been seriously injured by other weapons before. Even so, it can still maintain the status of a low-grade spiritual weapon. It can be seen that before it is damaged, its level is quite high. Even if it is not a high-grade spiritual weapon, it is still the best among middle-grade spiritual weapons. From this point of view, Zhang Wuyo was mistaken. You can even get this kind of magical weapon. This Wuyo is indeed more than just the third son of the Zhang family. Han Yang muttered to himself, but looked towards the entrance of the cave. Over there was an inaudible sound of footsteps coming from far away. The Li family is really brave. They dare to attack me in the sect. Just in time, I will take their lives tonight and sacrifice them to the sword in my hand. Han Yang stood up suddenly and stood with a knife. After about 3 or 5 breaths, a person appeared at the entrance of the cave. The visitor was dressed in black and had a black fox mask on his head. He was clearly a Four Seasons Tower killer. Seeing the broken cell door and Han Yang standing with a knife, the Four Seasons Tower killer was stunned for a moment. Then the cold light in his hand trembled and he stabbed Han Yang's face mercilessly. All the bones in the body made a crackling sound like fried beans, and 64 bones lit up together. Bone forging, 7th level. Chapter 60. Anyone who stands in my way will die. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The 7th level of bone forging is placed outside Yuan men. It is a strong man guarding one side. Even in a small city like Luo City, none of the major families have 7th-level bone-forging warriors. Only the Four Seasons Tower could afford the luxury of using a 7th-level bone-forging warrior as an assassin to assassinate him. The moment the killer struck, he could almost see Han Yang being hit by a sword in the head and falling to the ground. He has this confidence. The 3rd level of bone forging, even the 3rd level of bone forging in the Golden Bone Realm, can never stop his sword, Canglang. However, at the moment when the killer sword of the Four Seasons Tower fell, a dragon roar sounded. The snow-deceiving sword, which had been silent for countless years, was unsheathed again. In the twinkling starlight, Han Yang's knife struck first and drew a sad grey line, wiping directly across the neck of the Four Seasons Tower killer. The bloodline rises. The killer opened his eyes wide in shock. 5th level of bone forging, or the same golden bone. How can this be? According to the information, Han Yang completed the 3rd level of bone forging on the heavenly step. Only 1 day had passed. How could he have been promoted to the 5th level of bone forging? Puff! Blood sprayed out, the head of the Four Seasons Tower killer flew up, and all doubts were wiped out. It is indeed a good knife, that there was not a trace of blood on the snow-white blade of the Shueshue Dao. and it was still flawless. Han Yang laughed and stepped out of the prison door, like a tiger emerging from its cage. When passing by the killer's head in the Four Seasons building, he casually picked up a head in his hand. Now that the spot in Yanhua Valley has been obtained, there is no need to stay in the small Yuan men too frustrated. Today, he will kill anyone who dares to stop him. Ouch! All. Kill, kill, kill. That the pungent smell of blood made the prisoners in the other cells of Sequoia scream in excitement, like 100 ghosts walking at night. After thinking about it outside the cliff, the 7th-level bone-forging warrior stood up in surprise. What's going on? What are the names of these bastards? Before he could finish the sentence, the rest of the words were stuck in his throat, because he saw Han Yang dressed in white. There is also the head of the Four Seasons Tower killer in Han Yang's hand. Stop! Stop him! That the guarding warrior at the 7th level of bone forging gave an order, and 7 or 8 similar black-clothed warriors immediately appeared around him. The weakest one was also at the 6th level of bone forging. The moment they saw Han Yang, everyone's expressions changed. Dare to fight out from Sigua Cliff? This kid is definitely the first person in 1,000 years. Presumptuous. You actually dare to escape from the prison privately, and then you can be arrested without restraint. 7 or 8 warriors drew their weapons and surrounded Han Yang. A strange look flashed in the eyes of the leading 7th-level bone-forging warrior, and he waved his sword and shouted. The criminal Han Yang tried to escape from prison and fled, and he also killed people with a knife, but he will not be shot. Han Yang's title of 6th on the heavenly ranking was extremely resounding. And the other guarding disciples were a little hesitant. After all, he is a genius on the overall list, and he might be pardoned and released from prison at some point. If he really kills him, it will be difficult to do anything good. Han Yang said calmly. This is a personal grudge between me and the Li family. Anyone who stands in the way will die. Before he finished speaking, Han Yang held the human head in one hand and a knife in the other, like an arrow from a string, and shot at the leading 7th-level bone-forging warrior. Siguoya is an important place in the Yuan sect. Without this person's internal and external coordination, it would be impossible for the Four Seasons Tower killer to sneak in. This person deserves to die. Arrogant. That the 7th-level bone-forging warrior was furious, his eyes flashed with madness, and the sword in his hand thrust out like thunder. What about the geniuses on the overall list? A genius who dies is no longer a genius. Zheng. The sound of swords resounded through the night sky. The snow-white blade of the Shueshua Dao left a white arc in the void. The other end of the arc is the neck of the 7th-level bone-forging warrior. 5th level of bone forging. That the 7th-level bone-forging warrior was shocked and did not dare to be careless. The jade-colored light flashed on his body. He is clearly a tempered jade bone genius. In this martial arts competition, it is Yinantian, Yan Shan, Shirlei and others. When the swords met and made a crisp sound, the 7th-level bone-forging warrior was about to use his strength to kill Han Yang with Yuan's strongest swordsmanship, when he suddenly heard a click. The long sword in his hand was actually broken. He was cut off by the strange white long knife in the opponent's hand. Spiritual weapon. How is this possible? That the 7th-level bone-forging warrior's eyes widened in disbelief. Spiritual weapons are so precious. If placed in any family, they are a family treasure. There are not many pieces even in the entire Yuan sect, but this son-in-law from the small town of Luoqing actually possesses a spiritual weapon. I was careless for a moment and tried to avoid it, but it was already too late. The Qishue Dao cut off the long sword without any obstruction, and struck the 7th-level bone-forging warrior's neck with one strike. Kong Yu's strength is comparable to the ordinary 8th level, but he is defeated by the spiritual weapon. Just one knife, until the head flew up. The other party's face still showed strong unwillingness and resentment. Snapped. Han Yang stretched out his left hand, grabbed his hair, and held the warrior's head in his hand. With an indifferent gaze, he immediately glanced at the remaining 7 people around him. It's already dead silence all around. The remaining 7 warriors couldn't help but remain silent and looked at each other. The 7th-level bone-forging person killed by Han Yang was not an unknown person. This person was a second-grade genius 18 years ago, and he was even above the heavenly level, tempered into jade bones. Even an ordinary 8th-level bone-forging person would never be a match for this person, but such a strong man was actually Killed by Han Yang with one strike. The moment Han Yang looked over, these warriors subconsciously took a step back. Han Yang walked out without looking back. The remaining 7 people didn't dare to stop him at all. Quick, go and notify the law enforcement hall. Something has happened. That it wasn't until Han Yang left step by step that these people shouted loudly and ran towards the sect. Wrong. Suddenly, someone took a few steps forward, then stopped. One of them pointed at Han Yang's back and said in surprise, the direction he left was not the sect, but, the House Han Cave Mansion. That the other warriors were even more shocked, thinking of what Han Yang said just now. Everyone trembled in their hearts. No way. Han Yang, is he going to House Han Cave Mansion to face the Li family's crazy tiger? They all shuddered at the thought of this possibility. It seems that something earth-shattering is indeed going to happen tonight. Holding 2 human heads in his hand, Han Yang walked all the way to the back mountain cave house. Soon, the law enforcement hall disciples who were guarding were alerted. Stop. Just as 2 4th-level bone-forging disciples were about to step forward to stop him, they saw the human head still bleeding in his hand. Their tongues trembled uncontrollably and they couldn't finish a sentence. Han Yang smiled slightly, nodded and said, "We're here just in time. Take me to find crazy tiger Li Ying." Those 2 4th-level bone-forging disciples just joined the sect last year. How had they ever seen such a scene? He had been so frightened that his whole body was stiff and unable to move. Han Yang flew up and kicked one of them on the leg, causing the person to stumble. He just barely managed to stand still, and his arms suddenly felt slightly hot. When he lowered his head, he discovered that there was an extra red-colored fruit. "The fire Yuan fruit belongs to you, take me there." The disciple was about to cry, but even if there was a magical elixir, it was too hot to touch. How could he dare to ask for it? However, after seeing the 16 golden bones shining on Han Yang's body, he couldn't say no at all. "I can only be obedient, lower my head, and lead the way." "What did you say?" The inner sect of Yuan men, the law enforcement hall. The ancient elder was wrapped in clothes and looked at the disciple who woke him up from his sleep in disbelief. The other party's face turned pale, and he said tremblingly, "Han Yang." Han Yang killed Xianxia with his sword, rushed down the cliff, and is now carrying 2 heads and heading straight to the residence of crazy tiger Li Ying.